Hello everyone, I'm Loot, and I would consider myself a pretty normal new player to Strinova. I have a decent amount of game knowledge because of content that I've consumed for games like Strinova, those being bomb shooters, and I wanted to talk about bomb planting psychology from a noob's perspective in Strinova. So, as you know, Strinova is a third-person shooter with a fast time to kill, but in every given situation, if a player is prepared, they can delay that time to kill for an extended period of time. Or with decent communication or game sense, they can 2v1 players to make it even faster. You may be wondering, why is this important to planting the bomb? Well, whenever you plant the bomb in a 5v5 scenario, assuming everyone made it onto site, for a brief moment your team is fighting in a 4v5 scenario. Usually, this is not a good situation to be in, and as many top players will tell you, planting the bomb is a way to throw the round. But instead of leaving it at that, let's discuss the exact reason why the bomb might be your best choice in this scenario. I refer to this process as bomb planting psychology because there's a lot of factors that go into when you should plant the bomb. Focusing on the 5v5, turn 4v5 during the bomb plant, on paper, a good defense team will absolutely clap you for rushing a plant like this. But in lower ranks, when players don't know proper positioning and defense methods, and you do, it's actually better to plant the bomb fast before your team can take engagements. If you see your team is taking advantageous positions, like high ground on site, and the defenders haven't taken the best positions to even shoot back, then yes, plant the bomb. The 4v5 becomes a 6v5, because, big surprise, the bomb counts as your 6th player. Planting puts pressure on slow defenders, and pressure means your odds of winning a round increase. Obviously, if you take engagements with an enemy and win, but ultimately decide to rotate sites, this pressure increases even more. Your bomb presents an active threat that gives you the advantage to just survive rather than kill. I bring this up despite how simple it may seem to hear, because most attack players insist on hunting defenders on their own, even in the 6v5 scenario. If you skulk without your team like this, you turn a 6v5 into a 2v5, and if you lose without any favorable trades, you've turned an easily winnable scenario into a very difficult to defend one. Unless you can coordinate with 2 or more players, do not do this. This is where you actively throw the game. Alright, so the defending team isn't too shabby. They understand that they need to take and control space in order to delay you as long as possible, and we can easily discern that now, planting the bomb on a rush means a 4v5 where the defenders can easily isolate a team, taking their time reaching positions to defend the bomb. We need to apply bomb plant psychology differently, because now the only way to safely plant the bomb in a 5v5 situation, we need to tip the scales in our team's advantage significantly, to the point where your inactivity is negligible. It's highly unlikely that you'll attack a site without at least 1 casualty, but assuming a perfect scenario, you would need to down or full kill 2 players, leaving you at a 4v3 during a bomb plant, or having 1 positive material. Assuming you've downed players and your team cannot secure the kill, the surviving defenders make the choice to push forward anyways, or take the time to rescue their teammates, allowing the attackers to also decide the same. If you are one of the attackers in this engagement, and your teammate is planting the bomb, do not push a gunfight on these recovering defenders, at least not alone. If you haven't used a grenade or other utility yet to snag these full kills, now is the time. You are now the defender of your bomb, and your game plan has shifted from aggressive space taking to holding your space and delaying wherever possible. If you can get kills, great. You just further the gap, achieving the theoretically possible and untouchable 6v3 scenario, or a favorably tipped 6v5 scenario. There are many different strategies to consider here, because at almost all times you have access to the option of rotating sites, blowing all your utility on site entry, using characters like Reichi to divide enemy sightlines for a safer bomb plant, or even just using Luine's knife or Kanami's note to take space through smokes. There's too much to cover in that regard to this philosophy, so it's up to you to decide how to apply it in a perfect scenario as mentioned. However, I can talk about the not-so-perfect scenarios. What happens if you push a site and lose material in terms of a teammate? What if you take a fight and instead of winning to a 5v3, you trade equally to a 3v3 instead? This is where bomb plant psychology takes a turn. Let's take a look at our new scenario 1. You lose the site push and are now placed into a 4v5 situation. You still have the bomb, and have now rotated to throw off a regrouping defending team. A bit far-fetched, but this is a theory after all. While difficult, with your abilities recharged and some extra coordination, it's definitely possible to even the odds for a little bit. You displace an opponent and bring it down to a 4v4. Despite having equal material, planting the bomb in this case can be seen as a favorable thing to do, because you bring the game back to a 5v4 state, and reinstate pressure against a defending team with an extra hole to fill in defense. If you can even bring it down to a 4v3, it's all the better. This is usually the scenario in which you would consider burning an ult you were planning on saving, either to force the defenders to use one of their own early, or to gain the extra advantage for a site take. But what about the situation in which both teams traded down to a 3v3 or even a 2v3 or lower? In my opinion, it's even more favorable to gain the pressure of the bomb as your advantage. This is actually a more common scenario throughout each rank than you'd think, but the problem that most lower ranks run into is the aforementioned skulking without any backup. It's imperative that you take defensive, favorable 2v1 engagements wherever possible to ensure the win. No need to be a hero that places your team into an even worse position. Even for a brief moment during your 3v3, when you plant the bomb and it becomes a 2v2, you can usually mount a comeback because you have the extra pressure of the bomb. The interesting thing is that the lower the player count becomes, so too the higher reliance on bomb planting becomes, unless you're sitting in a 1v3 or 1v2 scenario. At that point, just prepare to fight. And in a 2v2 or 2v1 scenario, unless you know where the enemy is, just take the engagement with your remaining teammates. Planting the bomb, and hell, even defusing the bomb in a 2v2 means you will always lose unless you can guarantee your opponents are displaced enough to pull it off. As you can see, the priority of the bomb plant differs drastically just taking a look at player material alone. It's hardly favorable in a 5v5, gets extremely strong in a 5v4 or 3, is incredibly useful in a 3v3 or 2v3, and then drops off in viability when you, as the attacking team, drop below that. Just remember, you can count on the bomb as the 6th player unable to attack that takes roughly 4 seconds to plant, and provides immense pressure for the enemy team. You begin to play for time at a forced, roughly 1 minute, and things swing your way by remaining patient and not overextending. Obviously, I'm still new to the game, so I hope that these tips can help you in some way. I've been Loot, and yeah, see you on Windy Town, gamers.